So knowing your values is key, right? And those values for work and life. And then the second one is knowing your zone of genius. People can have it all. And the way you have it all is you really have to know for you what it means to have it all. And, I lead so much with clarity for myself, and like I help clients get to clarity because I can't define what it means for them to have it all. What I can say is that all my clients are high achievers. They want professional success, but they do not want it at the expense of their personal success. 2023 became my year of the gut. Like, oh my gosh, my gut is on point. My gut is, I have a gut decision, and then I can go spend an hour or two creating logic to just support my gut, or I could just trust my gut. Right. My gut is built off of for decades of knowledge and understanding and experience.
So that little taste should give you a sense of where this is going, because Jamie Braunstein doesn't talk about slowing down like it's self-care. She talks about it like a performance strategy. In this episode, we get into what it really means to prioritize priorities when both things matter, how her quick 15-minute recharge resets your decision-making, and how to use your zone of genius as a filter for what to keep and what to let go. If you're a solopreneur who feels like you're constantly running but never arriving, or if you're afraid that slowing down means falling behind, this one's for you. This is Unfiltered Solopreneur. I'm Nikhil. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Unfiltered Solopreneur. I'm your host, Nikhil. My next guest is a fearless problem solver who once hustled her way into first class just to find a mentor, and now uses that same boldness to help high achievers find solutions, not excuses. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I love that.
So I'm going to do this a little bit backwards. So I'm going to talk about your corporate career in a second, but I want to first start at the beginning. Okay. Now, you mentioned to me that your dad was an accountant who ran his own firm.
Yes.
And you said the two of you would talk business all the time, right? So
yes.
Even when you were little, you were running lemonade stands and starting car washing businesses.
Car wash, yes.
Right. So was there a moment when you realized, oh, this business thing isn't just my dad's world. This is my thing too?
Yeah, great question. I think it was I think early on I knew, the way I would, doing even that lanyard business when I was 10, and we would, I had a few friends who wanted to sell bracelets and stuff, and we would go around the neighborhood. The fact they needed a leader, they needed someone with a bit more of a vision, and the coming up with that vision was so fun and exciting. And we made samples. We pasted them on a little case, showed them off, and then we needed orders, and then we had to deliver. And I think right on, anytime I did anything business related, which is probably why I talk to my dad all the time about it, is because it was fun. I wanted to do more, and I wanted some kind of feedback. And my dad, whether he was on point or not, as a child, you look at your parent, whatever they're saying is right. So It was a feeding of information that I just love. So I think I guess in a way I was, because I talk to kids who are trying to have to pick a major now, and it's I don't, there's so many different ways you can go in business. So while I knew I wanted to do business, I didn't know specifically then finance versus accounting versus marketing versus this, there's that, so, but I did have I was aware of my enjoyment of business early on, which is why I kept doing it.
Yeah, so, it's interesting because one of the reasons I asked is a friend of mine asked me the other day if I found a pattern with solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, if there was a seed early on, or it's something that happens later, or is it sort of and I don't have a good answer to that question, but I was similar to you. When I was growing up, I started businesses. I wrote and directed a play in the neighborhood, and we charged people to come watch it. And at least I feel like for me, that seed was always there. I just never had the courage to go do it because no one in my family had ever sort of, run a business. So it took me a long time to sort of make that leap. But so would you say that was sort of growing inside you? And we'll talk about your corporate career in a minute. But did you always feel that, or did you not initially when when
No,
you were in the corporate
yeah,
world?
I definitely did always feel because there was something, I played a lot of sports growing up. Like sports was my jam, and I think there was connections between playing in a sport and leading in a sport, and and then doing those business things because it was the kind of thing. And I have a 12-year-old now, and I tell her she's like a mini me, and I tell her all the time, you know, no matter what, when she enters a room, like people will listen. And she is a born leader. And I'm not meaning to compliment myself in this, but like I guess it sounds like that in some way. But she is, and I'm like, there's a lot of power in that,
Yeah.
and so you can lead people in rudeness, kindness, like there's so much. And in a way, like I think when I was a kid, like I played a lot of sports, so I felt like my leadership was able to be there on the sports field. My daughter acts, and she plays some sports and shows up in that way. But I think for me as a kid, when I was doing any of these business ideas and I had friends who wanted to do it with me, it was like a way for my leadership to just sort of show up. So that's why I think it was like I enjoyed being a leader. And, I think there's a lot of things that I have this concept of a midlife awakening is that I think at 40 and above, you start paying attention to things you loved at like in grade school years, like under 20.
Yeah.
And, what lit you up then, like is the thing that like you want to bring back. And, 20 to 40, it's like this period of corporate becomes your family, your parents, like you lead with their values and their ways of doing and what they define as success. But 0 through 20 is like your parents taught you that. And I think post 40 is when you start to like, you got to pay attention to like those things that lit you up when you were younger.
Yeah, true, because you're right. And at least my parents too, in their minds, stability was a corporate career, right? That was
Yes.
the best thing you could do. And that
Yes.
was, well, at the time, was also one of the only paths. Now you have a
Yes.
lot more options, right, than you had then. But yeah, it's an interesting question. I want to dig into the data and see if there's any pattern there between nature and nurture. So,
Yeah.
the other thing I want to talk about, so you've had a very impressive corporate career full of big wins,
Yeah.
implementing Salesforce for 400 plus users at ESPN, transforming entire sales operations, modeling multi-million dollar business cases. So now on paper, you were crushing it, right? So
Yeah.
tell me, when did the cracks first start to show? What were the subtle signs that success on the outside no longer matched how you were feeling on the inside?
Great question. I'd say, my first 10 years at ESPN were amazing working in their digital media group. Like I was working with incredible general managers, incredible people on my finance team. I was surrounded by other people who came from investment banking or just consulting or whatever. Like we were a solid crew, but working with those GMs and taking their visions and putting it on paper for models and, making sure the teams were aligned was all so energizing and exciting. And then when that group started to, the businesses became big enough that we became more corporate.
Yeah.
And we started to like, we weren't just in our New York bubble, we had to mold how everything else. And we were always molding, but there was always an element of something fresh, something new, like a new idea that GM had that he needed someone to get it on paper. Right. But when that happened less and they sort of, I guess it was like the corporate nature,
Yeah.
um, weighed on it. Like that's when for me the tension built at first. So it was my 10-year window. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm ready to shift. I'm ready to move. And I moved into sales enablement. That's when I was doing some of the CRM and like, preventing comp plans, driving like how we track systems and numbers and all that. And that was fun and exciting for a few more years. But then I'd say 6 or so after that, leadership changes, culture changes, you know, and I was just noticing more of like it wasn't aligned as much with who I am, who I wanted to be. Now I can look back and I can see, it was just a misalignment. But when I was going through it, I mean, I vividly remember a walk that I had with a neighbor where we were talking and I was just I was making it like as if I wasn't good enough, as if I couldn't, I wasn't as good as I used to be. Like I was tying it to my worth.
Yeah.
And, and that point was when I needed another change, but there was always moments of tension where the excitement was there. I was able to make an impact, but the moment I wasn't able to like make the impact I knew I couldn't make, and a lot of times it was hindered by corporate politics, not in a bad way. I mean, because I coach people now, who are trying to make an impact in bigger organizations. I coach people who are running small, medium businesses and trying to make impact there. But politics is a thing, and there is navigating it. And when it got heavy, in those moments like that, that's kind of the moment that I kind of realized that I needed a shift. But there were, every few years there was a shift like that kind of, then I left the ESPN and then I, started that PE backed
Yeah, we're
company.
going to get into that. Yeah.
Yeah. So then so it was funny. In February, I decided to leave in January of 2020, ESPN, started my new job, and we all know what happened in February of 2020. Like the world shut down, and here I am, like leading, 20 people, which became bigger in that 2020 year for a company. Like they were looking to triple in size.
Yeah.
Um, I just started to see that like their expectations were so high. I was sleeping maybe 4 hours a night. At this point, I had two younger kids,
Yeah.
and I was not showing up how I wanted for them. I wasn't showing up how I wanted to be for me, for my husband, for friends. Like it was not sustainable. And that's when sort of like in 2020 towards the end, I just realized, right? Like I goes to what you were saying before, like on paper,
Yeah.
everything looked great. I had the leadership role I wanted. I was, getting a lot of opportunity, but I wasn't me anymore. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't being healthy. And that's when I kind of, shifted out and on my own.
Yeah, so actually, I was going to ask you about that because I mean that's a very after leaving ESPN, you sort of jumped into the deep end of another. You just talked about it, but tell me a little bit about what happened in the weeks after that realization. What was that conversation with yourself or with your husband that led you to say, "Okay, I'm done with this"?
You know, there was a moment I was sitting at my desk, which PS, like we're in a home, right, where it's 2020, we're all home. My
Yeah,
desk is 2 feet from my bed. So like my life was probably within like a 30-foot radius, even
yeah,
if my house had a lot more than 30 feet. And my daughter walks in and she says to me, Mom, are you going to coach my softball team? And I literally said to her, I don't think I can, because I knew it wouldn't be acceptable in the company that I was at with the expectations they had for me already sleeping 4 hours to leave, coach her team. Like, and that moment, like that was when it first hit me. And then we were going through the elections, because
yeah,
like in 2020 elections, and hearing like some of the speeches, it was like other moments of like, oh, what I'm doing. What, this is not how I should be living. This is not how and I'd snap at my kids for something that I was like, what? Oh, no, I'm
yeah.
better than this. And then I had the conversation with my husband. And in all honesty, it was a mutual.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing you realize that because there's so many people who sort of the internal clock is or whatever it is telling them, but they still keep going, right? Because they
Yes,
imagine that's sort of the path they need to be on or want to be on, or
right.
and then I've spoken to so many coaches who tell me their clients come to them after having reached the pinnacle and achieved everything they ever wanted, like on
Yes,
paper on their list, and then saying, "But I feel empty inside. Why is that?" Right?
yes.
But yeah, so let me ask you now, so what's something no one warned you about and you wish you'd known before you made that leap to solopreneurship?
The thing I want to say is just, which I had wished I learned when I was in corporate, is the power of slowing down.
Yeah.
Like, so I am a go, go, go person. And I'm still a go, go, go person, but I have learned to slow down and to think about how to leverage my resources and think about what is what I call and what I, learned like zone of genius, where that mix of like what I love and what I'm good at. And if not, like seeing that, knowing that, and focusing on that, and then saying to myself, like anything outside of that, I've got to leverage, resources, part-time resources, like, this is why FAS Day, like find a solution, not an excuse. It's like the word I live by. Because also, like, I remember one of the hardest things I had to do in the beginning when I did it is that there was no one asking me for things. No one saying I needed to get it done by this time and this date. So like me being the leader of me became this thing of like, wait a second. I remember I wanted to launch my website, and I don't remember 2023, I think it was like 2024. And I found the website guy. We'd been kind of talking, and I literally was like, all right, as of this date, I'm going to go live. And he, and as we got like moving close, he's like, oh my God, you're serious. And I'm like, yes, because if I don't treat myself like my boss, I'm going to just keep pushing this back. And, when you're leading yourself, like you have to make the call of do this by this date, or, this. And it is what part drove me to realize, like, I have to lean on someone else, like to, whatever I have the resources like around. And it's one of the things I feel like is key to the coaching is getting people to see who are your resources. And it's not just like someone you especially hired this many hours to do this. It's like friends, family, your spouse, your kid, like asking for help when you need it and saying I'm prioritizing, right? My husband had to know I'm prioritizing to get my website live, and I'm working late to do this because I said so. Not because someone's expecting it of me. And the website is just one of many examples of like when I have to put down my foot to say this is what I'm doing, and I tell my husband, I tell my kids, I make the call, but then it's like we as solopreneurs like have to balance like, oh, I need a break. Oh, I need, and how to get a quick break. Like I think one of the biggest things I've learned for myself is how to recharge in 15 minutes or less, rather than always needing like 2 hours to do this that I can never find, or 1 hour to get here that it's hard to get. It's like, I got 15 minutes. How do I recharge in 15 minutes? What works for me, and like I could say examples of some of those things. But
but it's true though. I mean, and I think that's one of the things I struggle with too. And I've sort of found the rhythm. It took me a while to find that rhythm, right? And I think the other thing I'd add is you have to also be not so hard on yourself, because like you said, it's very easy. And I'm not talking about, it's very easy to do nothing or do busy work and think like you're making progress. But it's also really important to understand that you are one person. And you have to prioritize, and some things will not get done, and that's okay, right? The sun will still come up tomorrow. And and just sort of, and that's what I've learned to become much better at, is I have my top priorities and sort of my secondary and tertiary ones, and I don't worry about those. And at the end of the day, if I haven't gotten them done, I'm like, there's still tomorrow, right? But I make sure I get the hardest stuff done first. I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about brand building and marketing. So now we talked about how you've done some big complex things in your career: ESPN, Disney, operations, finance, leadership. But coaching is such a personal craft, right? So I'm curious, when someone asks, so what do you actually do? What's the part that's easiest for you to say? And what's the part that always gets you gets stuck on the way out?
Great. This is what I feel like I've been working on, the easiest is like, I believe people can have it all. And the way you have it all is you really have to know for you what it means to have it all. And, I lead so much with clarity for myself, and like I help clients get to clarity, because I can't define what it means for them to have it all. What I can say is that all my clients are high achievers. They want professional success, but they do not want it at the expense of their personal success. And but to each one, to myself, to all, it's very different on how much personal success you want, how much professional success, and I think it's been easier and easier to say everyone can have it all. You just have to define what it is. And success can include personal success and professional success. What stumps me is, and I think it's it's the how, because what the how is, it's so unique to everyone. Like, part of when I get to know my clients, I see early on, like, where they're willing to spend more time, what they want to do more, what they don't, what they like, what they don't like. And the more I learn that, the more I can give them, that path for them on how to get to their clarity, right? Like, I want to see their clarity first. And I want to understand how they operate. And in the beginning, I used to try to tell the how in different ways to try to get them, to understand based on the little things I knew. And I guess, like, I now, I do summarize it in a way of, I call it a toolbox, like, of when you're blocked, like, how do you bounce back? And it's like, if you have 5 minutes or less, if you have 5 minutes to 30 minutes, if you have 30 minutes to an hour, or you have, like, a lot, and we think about those things. So I can summarize it now in the sense of, like, it'll be what works for you. But a lot of my clients, I love the clients that question they can operate any different than how they are.
Yeah.
Because I see myself how I operate so different than how I was. I get stumped when people don't believe when I try to convince them that they can do what they don't think they can't. I'd rather them just kind of, like, this is where I think the value of social is, like, you bring up marketing, right? Like, I'm trying to shift it to show, like, how I was, how I am now, or how clients were, how they are now, like, through stories, because convincing doesn't,
No.
convincing is not good.
No. No. And it's really interesting, right? This has come up in so many episodes where it's like, I always feel like, if you go back to, and you mentioned this a minute ago, when you go back to childhood, our imaginations were limitless, right?
Yes.
One day you could be a fireman, one day, a princess,
Yes.
one day an astronaut, and it didn't matter. Nothing could stop you from being those things. But then I feel like the world sort of chips away at those things, right? The moment you get into school, you sort of get into a path, and like you were saying, you have to decide your major. You have to kind of figure out what you want to be when you grow up, right? When
Yes.
you're like 21, before your brain's even not fully developed. Now they're saying until your 30s.
Yes.
So, and so I feel like, a lot of the work that I do, similar to what you do, is chipping away those layers, right? Is
Yes.
getting people to understand that a lot of the weight they're carrying is not their weight, it's weight the world has put on them, and
Oh my gosh.
expectations that have been layered on. So I totally get that. And to that point, there is no one size fits all. That's the other thing I feel is slightly misguided here, is that everyone thinks you can take a formula or a framework and apply it to
Yes.
yourself, and voila, you come out the other end. Like, no, there's a lot of hard work involved, and everyone's journey will be different. And like you said, people's priorities are different too. You have to kind of be very clear about, what, and also what you're willing to give up, right? Is part of it, is what's more important, what's less important. So
Yes.
I totally agree. And I think that's,
Yes.
an integral part of the journey that we sort of forget until we take a moment to breathe or talk to someone like you. So something else you said to me in our pre-call that sort of stuck with me. You said, I don't do a good job of tooting my own horn. Now, what's behind that for you? Is it just personality, or is there something deeper there going on for you?
This is an interesting thing, because, like, I grew up, and I am grateful for this. So, like, I say it as if it's an obstacle, but it is, I know it's a gift. And I'm waiting to say, because I also, for a long time in my coaching, I thought it was going to hold me back, because most people who are great coaches have gone through so much struggle, right? Like, and one thing, like, of course, I there's elements of struggle, but as a kid, my mom thought everything I did was amazing. And the other day I was telling her, I was like, Mom, I was thinking how I do, I was doing like a work on inner child of like, and I was like realizing like you always said like, it was like everything I did was so amazing. And it's like, it's made me like, I had to like step out and be like, no, everything you're doing is not amazing. Like, I had to be my own judge. And,
Right.
and she was like, but, in this state, she's like, but everything you do is amazing. And like, we just started bursting out laughing. And I think there's parts to, I became a perfectionist because I think it was driven in me, driven by my dad to like achieve and drive and all this stuff. And I wanted to know what was right, what was wrong. And here my mom, everything I was doing was right. I'm like, but it's this paper versus this paper. This one is much better than this one. Don't tell me both are good. Or that time I played in a tennis match versus this time it wasn't both good. Great. And I would always be careful to not always toot my own horn. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to like be careful. And I think in the end, I cut back on it. Like I'm even teaching clients all the time and reminding my family of like, you should be proud of yourself. If you can't be proud of yourself, like no one else can,
Yeah.
So, like now in the family, I do a good job of tooting my own horn. Like my husband, like, oh, mommy needs everyone to just say she did a great job. But outside, like I don't want to ever come across as I'm, cocky or like thinking I'm any better than anyone else, because I don't think I am. And I always want to be conscious of that. I might have be very self-aware or tried things, but I can always learn from so many other people.
Yeah. No, no, absolutely. And again, that's sort of a realization as you get older, right? You sort of
Yes.
become more aware of these things. And I think that's actually not a bad thing today, because as a society, we've become so over reliant on external validation
Yes.
that it's not healthy. I mean, I know so many people who are just like sitting there waiting for the likes, and then they get depressed when they don't see that happen.
Right.
And I know those systems were designed that way, but still it's a trap you can very easily fall into. And especially if you're working on your own, it gets even harder, right? Because you don't have colleagues, you don't have bosses, you don't have subordinates to actually tell you you've done a good job. So it
Exactly.
can become very easy to go look for that sort of endless well of validation from the external world. So and that's something I've honestly had to like get better at. And
Yes.
I'm at a point where I don't care. I mean, as long as I'm not being
Yes.
rude to someone or being nasty,
Yes.
I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm enjoying it.
Yes.
And people may not like it, and that's okay. So
Right. I mean, it's so important. And I think that's like knowing not everyone's going to like you, and nor should everyone like you, is like
sure.
part of what it's all about. Like you have to like you. You have to show up, in the way you want. Like,
So the other thing I wanted to ask you was, we talked a little bit about this, your story, but solopreneurs often struggle to bring their personal story into their brand, right? Now you've lived through some really pivotal transitions, like corporate identity, burnout, motherhood, reinvention. So what's a story from that time you wish more people knew about? The one thing that would sort of make your work instantly click for them?
ooh, I would say that 2020 year,
Yeah.
um, I think in the year, I felt like it was a fail. And I look back now and like it wasn't the failure wasn't, it wasn't a failure, but it was more of, I was trying to be someone that someone else wanted to me to be
Yeah.
than someone who I wanted to be. And, you know, being able to see now, and when you're burnt out, it's because what you're doing is not aligning to your values.
Yeah.
I am working harder now, but like harder now than I did a lot of points in my career that I was
Yeah.
working so hard. But I am so much more fulfilled, and every bit of working hard is aligned to my values now. And I do work with clients but it's not even work. It's like, I guess it's why I chose to shift to coaching, and because how I love to show up for friends, for family. It's like, you know, I always effectively like to show up for as a coach, and like the oftentimes friends like, Jamie, I don't need that now, and I'm like, great, just tell me, because I could always turn on like just like help people be seen, heard, support. Like that's not an obstacle, but like I do love to show up and help people who want to grow. Oh,
Yeah.
like I love to partner with them. But it's because I look back and I can see that I had such a misalignment, and all we start to do in that, even when they're in their world of burnout, it's like, how do you bring your values in? And do you even know your values? And most people are like, yeah, of course I know my values. And like, sure, it's easy to list 20 or 30 values. Listing your top 5 is not easy.
No.
And your top 5 versus your spouse's top 5 versus your kids' top 5 versus they're going to be different. And that's okay. But knowing them becomes so anchoring. It becomes like anchoring, even like my relationship with my spouse, or my relationship with a business partner, or my relationship with my mom. Like, it's the more you can see each other's values, the more you can live them. And when I look back at that time, like I was trying to live my values in some ways, but that was kind of what was making me not have enough time to do all the work that was expected of me. And the work that I wanted to do wasn't necessarily appreciated in the way that it could be. And
Yeah.
all I needed to do was change my environment. I couldn't be happier that I made the switch then, and I hit rock bottom. Like that was, like that was not my best parenting year, but it drove me to make my best parenting years now.
Yeah.
So it drove me to see, like, I can relate with people who are in that burnout moment now because I lived it too, you know?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting you say that, and I appreciate you sharing that because I look back on my life too, similarly, and honestly, the moments I cherish the most are my most difficult ones, where I was
Yeah.
sort of down in the dumps because that two things happen, right? One is like you said, it helps you recalibrate and get
Yes.
on a better path, and the second thing is also, I think, which is for me is fuel, is I realized, hey, things got that bad, I still got through it. And I'll shift gears again a little bit in terms of just some of the learnings and growth that you've had. You started in 2021, right? You launched
Yes.
Bridge in 2021. You hit the 3-year mark, I think it was around 2024, which is typically when solopreneurs sort of either figure it out or burn out, right?
Yes.
So you're now almost 5 years in. So I guess my question is, what changed between year 2 and 3 that made you think, okay, this is actually going to work? You talked about the identity shift. So when did you say, okay, coaching is the thing that I want to do and it's working?
Yeah. So I would say, like, this is where I think I was kind of going. It's like I started with the consulting,
Right.
and that's what Bridge started as. I slowly realized like that what I wanted to do was help leaders. I went through my identity crisis probably, so in 2022 is when I started to think maybe I want to do a coach. I don't know. This is when, because I was realizing the companies I was helping, like some were great, some they were just weren't ready, to change. So it's like, I didn't, I want to do things where my impact like is felt. And, but if people are too stuck in how they want to write, it's like, you don't need my help. You know what you want to do. So like, go ahead and then you can hire someone at less cost to just do what you're saying. But if you want to, I love the quote, what got you here won't get you there.
Yeah.
If you're ready to lean into that, what got you here won't get you there, and you're ready for a mirror, right? I'm not giving you all the answers. I'm giving you a version of a mirror, helping you see what you want, helping you see where you want to get to. So for me, 2022 was sort of like that identity crisis. And then I'm like, okay, maybe I'll do coach. And then, so 2023, I turned a certification program. So I
Yeah.
was doing consulting while I was taking a coaching certification program. And in that year is when I'm like, I can do this. I like this, but I still felt like everything needed to be tied to deliverables,
Yeah.
and in coaching, you don't have to necessarily, like, there are deliverables, and I have found my way to tie it to deliverables in a way that I feel good with, whereas other fellow coaches, you don't need to do that. I'm like, I do, because it, like, the kind of clients that I work with, they want deliverables,
Sure.
but 2023 was that year where I was doing consulting and leaning in the coaching. How do I coach? And there was a lot of validation of, gosh, how you've always led. is what they're teaching in coaching. Like
Right.
your intuitive awareness is actually a strategy. Like, so there was a lot of, oh, wow. Like 2023 became my year of the gut. Like,
Hmm.
oh my gosh, my gut is on point. My gut is, I have a gut decision, and then I can go spend an hour or two creating logic to just support my gut, or I could just trust my gut.
Right.
My gut is built off of like for decades of knowledge and
Yeah.
understanding and experience. So 2023 was my year of the gut. 2024 was when I was like, okay, coaching is what I'm going to do. And I started doing more coaching versus consulting, but I still got pulled in to someone I was coaching with. I often get pulled into that COO, CFO type role because it's an executive leadership role to like guide in operations, guide in finance. And as long as I'm coaching someone who will allow me to still bring the coach in me, it's kind of like that 2020 year. It was where I was not allowed to bring the coach in me
Yeah.
to my team. But as long as I'm not even allowed is the wrong word, I'm encouraged to be me, like, and so that 2024 was sort of the year of coaching's it. Yeah. I'm going to build this website. I'm going to do this coaching thing. Like I started, I put a lot of things on paper, but I got to say 2025 was my year of clarity.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't be more clear in what I'm doing, who I'm doing, why I'm doing it for. And 2024, I felt very clear. I look back and I see what I wrote in 2024. It was all on point, but I didn't feel the clarity as much as I feel it now.
No. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so are you still bridging those two worlds right now, or are you fully sort of a coach now? You're still a business consultant?
It's sort of like the words coach and advisor come
Yeah.
in a lot. Like there are definitely times where advisor return and they don't have someone on their team to do something. So I'll help build the model because I, part of what I love doing is talking to people about their vision, what they're trying to do, get it out of them. And then I help them put it in a one pager or a
Right.
model or, like it's so easy for me, and part of where they keep spinning, and like, I could do this, they don't know how to just take what they're hearing and put it on paper. And they sometimes they'll be like, oh, I just went off on tangent. I'm like, you didn't. I actually got three things out of the tangent you think you went out of. Is this what I'm hearing? They're like, oh yeah, that's right. Um so yeah, like I'm seeing now how my mix of work is a version of consulting and coaching, but it's more advisory. And sure, I can deliver on something else, or I can guide someone on your team.
Yeah.
You have the finance person who just doesn't know how to do it this way. Like I'll help them see it differently, right? Like I'm not looking to take on the work. I'm looking to help people staff up their team part-time, full-time, like whatever, so that they can create the capacity,
Okay.
so they
Yeah.
can do.
All right. So I want to talk money for a second because nobody does and they should. Now, you mentioned you're working with 6, 7 figure founders, but you also said there's not enough funds yet to pay a growing team, right? So without sharing exact numbers, what's been the hardest part of pricing yourself as a coach after spending 18 years, in corporate where your value was tied to a title and a salary? Because that's something, everybody struggles with.
And I've learned it's so interesting how there's a market for a level of coaching, of skill, and some will pay X and some will pay X plus Y.
Yeah.
And meeting the people, like the people who are getting X plus Y, I could come in and do that and get X plus Y. But until I've delivered on X, which is like a little higher than what I want, I'm pushing my envelope. I've gone through phases of increasing my pricing
Yeah.
because I'm like, wow, the value I just delivered is worth more than what they paid. And I'm cool with that. I'd rather be in a world where the value I delivered is more than what they paid. So I should level up my prices, and, but I've had a lot of others like in coaching programs, like just just go out and charge it, just put it out there and do that. And then like, that'll help you get there. And like, it's helped me make it higher than what I thought, but I just never felt authentic charging what I believe, like in 2-3 years, what I believe I can charge. I
Yeah.
believe I could charge it right now. I can't charge it right now because I'm just not there yet, but I am higher than where I was.
Yeah.
One of my favorite books is like The Gap and the Gain. It's I recommend it all the time, and it's like so much around like measuring yourself based on your progress from where you've been versus where you want to go.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, so it's been a journey, and I think that's part of like taking my time has been the right thing. And I can see now like how, what someone got 2 years ago was a great deal. And honestly, though, I can see in 2 years, someone who's getting it now is going to get a great deal, but it's hard to, and like I associated more of like, I feel like the beginning, it was more around, what do you pay for a therapist? Even though it's not, coaching is not therapy.
No.
But paying someone an hourly rate, right? Like it started as that, but I realized like I support my clients in ways more than just a by hour thing. With clients, they have, they'll text me like, I need 8 to 11. Like it's always like all right, that means I'm going to call you while I'm driving one place to another. I got like 8 to 11 minutes, and we're just going to check in on that one thing. And like, that's part of the coaching, so it's not an hourly thing. And in the beginning, I kept tying it to an hourly thing.
Yeah.
But it's a impact, results, like change they can get by working with me versus without me. Like,
Yeah, no, I agree. And it is a difficult thing. And I think we all, and everyone who's honest goes through that, right? And
yes.
I in fact, I did a video recently on how it's not just charging your worth, because everyone gives you this advice that always charge your worth,
Yes.
never charge less than you deserve, right?
Yes.
And I realized, but that's not, like you said, to me now the formula is confidence built on proof.
Yes.
And it's like the proof ladders the confidence, and that's what
Yes.
will help you increase your pricing, exactly like you said. So let me ask you now, you said your mantra was that what got you here won't get you there, right?
Yeah.
So let's make that practical. What's one thing that sort of got you to where you are today that you now know you need to stop doing to get to the next level?
It's something tied to my energy and my passion. It helps to build connection.
Yeah.
But even in, I often say like when I coach people versus how I show up for like friends, this and that, like I tone it down. Because it's like I love it because it's this time to coach. Like I can just sit back and I'm listening. I'm showing up with curiosity. I'm ready for new perspective. But outside of that, like the me, the passionate me, the energized me shows up. It comes wherever I go. And I do think just this continued effort to slow down is, and I do it a lot. I already, right? Like I can meditate now. I don't do it all the time, but I can pause if I'm moving and going, and like I can say to myself, I can see, oh wow, I just need to step away for a few minutes and I can come back, and so I am slowing down, but the version of me now versus the version of me in 2 years, 3 years, it will be slower. But it's not going to take away like the energy that I have no matter what. I think it's it's the core, it's my brand, like.
I think that's really smart, because it's like, and in a world right now, in our world, I should say, everybody's trying to get you to speed up, right? I mean, I have so many people reach out to me like, you can move faster, you can use AI, you can do it. I'm like, actually, slowing down is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you're going to fall back, or it's not about, not moving forward. That's what I think people misassociate it with. That's a word. But, and energy and speed are two different things too, right? I'm like you. My wife tells me like, in the morning I'm up and I'm like, she's like, you haven't even had coffee yet, what the hell's going on? And she's like, tone it down, I'm not up yet. So I'm totally like you, and I have to like sort of check my energy sometimes, because I'm just like, 24 hours a day I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Like And my kids like laugh about it, but you know what's funny is like when they bring it back to me, because there are days I'm down too.
Yeah.
And when they bring it, um, but yeah, like, this is why I think, right, like not everyone's gonna like you,
Mhm.
some people are gonna think I'm too much, and you know what? Okay,
Yeah.
because my intentions are so damn good.
Yeah.
Like so, and my kids know it, my family knows, my friends know it, and like, yeah,
The people who matter know it, right? That's the
yes.
important
But
thing. Yeah.
it's funny. I say to people all the time, um, Dr. Seuss had this quote, and I had given to my daughter did Seussical, so I put it on like one of the ones. It's like those that mind don't matter, and those that matter don't mind.
Yeah.
And it's so good, and I try to remind myself all the time when I'm with someone who does mind about something of like how I showed up, right? It like, and it's not to say in a rude way they don't matter, right? Because they definitely matter to others. They matter in other ways, but in terms of whatever I'm trying to do, in terms of like pulling me down, no. It shouldn't pull me down. It shouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. If it is mattering in that moment, that's something for me to reflect on,
Yeah.
to look at, like, why is it bothering me? All that stuff.
Yeah, I know, I do. And actually, interestingly, I mean, I think there are less and less spaces to be authentic, right? Because social media is so performative. And it's almost like
Yes.
you're taught to be someone you think you should be, the polished version or the one your client might want. But I mean, I always tell people you got to be yourself. So
Yes.
I, I normally say if we were to grab coffee 3 years from now, what would you want to achieve? But maybe we'll meet minus the coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. I this year of clarity, I have put my thoughts into how I how I how I coach, how I show up for not just others but for myself. And like I feel very clear in the path to help others get clear and achieve what they want to achieve. And I envision getting to a point of having those one-to-one clients that price we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
that are so happy to pay that, and having a few, like I want like 5 to 10 core clients in a year, and like one-to-one, like, and that's it, because I want to give all my time to them. And I hope to have achieved those at that price, and like they feel like it's still a discount because of what they're able to accomplish with me in their life. But even more than that, like I hate the idea that someone would need to have to pay that to get my impact. So having some elements of group programs where, whether it's in the community or it's through um, a small group where, because creating a element of a community of people who are ready to grow at a similar pace,
Yeah.
being able to have some of these core anchor programs that go through and teach. I've just spent a year doing that community thing, and every month I would do a workshop.
Yeah.
We call a meetup, and I force myself to do it in a way of like I put slides together to cleanly, easily articulate beliefs that I have, ways that I teach things, in a way that it could resonate for people, and being able to take those and put them into a program. And like, so now I have a signature program that people take. And then doing some of the community in-person things, like doing things for nonprofits, like showing up, like doesn't even need to be paid. It's like, because I can just help people who are not as fortunate to, and they're in a group, and the group itself means something, and I can show up for that. And then also like the social side, like I feel like it's the cool way to, like, for free, try to help people see what I think, how I'm operating with things. I was talking to my part-time social media person and sharing like things I wanted to accomplish in 2026, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I remember when you didn't want to show up in that capacity, and you didn't want to share that kind of story, and you cared about that other stuff." And I think now social becomes a path, not even like build this huge audience, though I love to, like, if 3 years, if it can happen, great that I have a huge audience, but it's not because I went out there to build an audience.
Yeah.
It's because I went out there to make an impact, and like people started to be like, you need to hear Jamie's perspective on things, like Jamie's tips, like they actually help. You should follow Jamie, like, because I'm actually helping change people's lives up level, whether they can pay the one-to-one fee or not, or pay the coaching fee or not. Like I want to have built an audience, not because I tried to, because people are like, she offers a lot of good stuff, even the free stuff,
Yeah.
so if I could achieve that,
That's great. And
then
I
I'm
am following Jamie for the record. So
okay.
I look
Yes,
forward to
yes.
watching that happen. So if you could offer one piece of advice to someone wanting to start their solopreneur journey, what would you tell them?
Okay, so knowing your values is key, right? And those values for work and life. And then it's the second one is knowing your zone of genius, like where that path, that where it crosses between what you love and what you're good at. Forget the business you want to start just yet. Like, yes, make note of that. Like, make a whiteboard, make a list, do all that stuff, but know what your zone of genius is. And oftentimes it's the area where you get frustrated with other people because they can't do it as easily. Or, or people compliment you, like, and the amount of times clients are frustrated by the thing that it's like, can just notice this is your zone of genius, like how you show up, how you, and then the last is like what you are passionate about, like what is the industry, what is the thing, what is like, I have a client who loves like health and vitamins, and it has like it's a thing you can just learn about and read about, and it never gets old. Like for me, it's coaching, life growth, but when you know your values,
Yeah.
your zone of genius, and the things that truly like are just you are interested in, then you can tie it to that business you want. Because probably if you're willing to start a solopreneurship, it's gonna be connecting those things.
Yeah.
So if you lead with, I want to start a business, I gotta do the mission, the vision, the value, all that stuff for the business, you're starting in the wrong place. You got to do it for you first, because you are going to be the leader of this business. And the more you know that, then you surround yourself with people with similar values or slightly different in ways that you need to, right? Like, no coincidence that I married someone a lot slower than I am, because as much as I like to move fast, I want to slow down,
Yeah.
So you surround yourself with people who, this is why those part-time resources, knowing your zone of genius, like don't do things that aren't in your zone of genius. And, there's definitely things that you're going to have to do in the beginning because you don't have endless budget, but you strategically using your budget, strategically thinking about like knowing your zone of genius helps you see what kind of resources you need to find, and free ones, paid ones, whatever it is, like, so I think that those are the keys: values, zone of genius, and then like just generally the things you're interested and passionate about.
Yeah, I know. I think that's great advice because, like you said a minute ago, it's like I've never worked harder than I am working my solopreneur life, not in my corporate life. So you are
Yes,
living, breathing, and eating and sleeping this thing, right? So I think that's
yes,
important. Well,
yes.
that's also a great way to bring us to a rapid fire round. So
Okay.
I'm just going to throw 5 fun questions at you. Just tell us what comes
Okay.
to mind. So if you weren't coaching or consulting, what do you think you'd still be trying to fix in the world?
I think if I was doing anything else than helping people get clear and find a path to FASME, I would be finding a way to figure out how to get to that, because that is like, maybe take the word consulting out of, like, I would be full on coaching, but the advisor stuff is like, because I love the business side. I used to ask people, like, if you were to win the lottery, what would you do? And for myself, my answer has always been, I would help people achieve their vision, achieve like whatever they wanted to do. Because part of why I call my company Bridge Solutions is I can help you bridge your vision to how you execute and get there.
Yeah.
And and I would be, calling it something else, but like I would be doing that.
Okay. So you've got 3 part-timers on your team now, right? What's the first thing you delegated that you wish you'd let go a year earlier?
Social media.
Yeah, the
Like,
hamster wheel. I'm with you.
yeah, I wish I had leaned in that a long time ago because I was doing stuff that wasn't in my zone of genius. My zone of genius is capture moments,
Yeah.
be present, you know, identify the wisdom in it. But like, it's not making videos, like,
Right. Yeah, I
and
know.
making posts.
I don't think any of us came out with that skill. At least not these generations. Maybe the new ones.
Yeah, yeah.
If your business had a warning label, what would it say?
I don't know. It's like what you see is not what you get, but it is what you get. Like,
I love
because
that.
it's like, like I said, I have this energy,
Yeah.
and like you do get a version of that, but like the more you work with me, like it's like you get like this like grounded, calm, like see how it is?
Okay. You crash first class at 22 on a flight to
Yes.
find a mentor, right? So boldest move in the last year.
I did that at one point. I did this, like I took on my own 10-day challenge. Someone had said to me, I'd put a social thing out there and they said, you should do that more. Like what you said it was good. And I'm like, I always need to think about it. I'm such a thinker,
Yeah.
I like plan things, I'm like lead a lot from my head. And the ear of the gut is when I learned to lead more from my heart, my body, listen to my body more. But he had said you should do it more. So I gave myself this 10-day challenge to every day show up and post some live video or something. And I did it. I did the 10 days. And I was so proud of myself. And there was definitely a lot of good videos that came in it.
Fasne with your kids. Does it work or do they roll their eyes?
Oh my gosh. It started as rolling their eyes.
Yeah.
But when you keep showing up with it, you keep doing it, it's become things they say and do now. Like it is like they know when they're complaining, the first thing I'm going to say is like, do you want to complain or do you want a fast day? And like they will lead differently now. My husband even like brings it in, like friends. Like I ran into friends and like we were all joking about moments to Fasne. And my 8-year-old did her student council speech, and we at the end of it, like she was like, I want to get the class to Fasne. I mean, I needed a moment to just be proud that like she was ready to take it from our house outside. So there's still elements of eye rolling, but they know where it's coming from, and they do see that it helps.
Okay. Fill in the blank. Most people think having it all means dash, but actually I've learned it means dash.
Most people think it's having financial wealth, and I've learned it's having wealth way beyond. Like the money is one thing, but happiness, laughter, connection, enjoying your time, it is so much more. Like the idea of wealth, it is the word wealth, but it's not just money.
No, there's much more to it. And that's a great note to end our show on, Jamie. Thank you so much for sharing
Oh,
all your wisdom and your insights. It was a great conversation.
so good. I really enjoy this. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad we got connected to do this. And I look forward to more conversations, not just in 3 years.
Likewise. What I love about Jamie's perspective is that she challenges the one addiction every solopreneur has, the need for speed. But here's what she proves: speed without alignment isn't progress, it's just expensive chaos. Here's the first and most critical lesson: burnout isn't about volume, it's about misalignment. Jamie admitted she actually works harder now than she did in corporate, but she isn't burning out. Why? Because the corporate burnout wasn't caused by the workload, it was caused by living misaligned with who she wanted to be. Here's the business truth most solopreneurs miss: misalignment doesn't just kill your energy, it kills your conversion. If you're building a brand that doesn't align with your values, your audience smells the disconnect immediately. You cannot sell a story you don't fully believe in. When you're misaligned, your content feels performative, your offers feel heavy, and your customer acquisition cost goes through the roof because you're fighting yourself to make the sale. So stop asking, how do I get more done? And start asking, is what I'm selling actually aligned with who I am? Because if you don't believe it, they certainly won't. Second, you have to learn to prioritize priorities. Most productivity advice tells you to choose between what matters and what doesn't. But that's not the real problem. The real problem, the one that Jamie solves, is choosing between two things that matter. Remember, saying no to one good thing isn't diluting your brand, it's focusing it. Your clients aren't confused by what you don't do. They're confused when you try to do everything. The sharpest brands in the world aren't built on addition, they're built on subtraction. Because a focused brand isn't a limited brand, it's a brand people can actually remember. Third, define your zone of genius, then protect it ruthlessly. Jamie defines this as the intersection of what you love and what you're good at. But here's what most people miss. Identifying your zone of genius isn't just about self-awareness. It is also directly connected to your brand promise and the only thing your client is actually paying for. It should show up in what you sell, what you're known for, and what you repeat on purpose. Every hour you spend outside that zone isn't just busy work, it's product dilution. So everything outside that zone, delegate, automate, or don't do it. Because every hour you spend on work that isn't your genius is an hour you're not reinforcing what makes you hireable. Finally, and this is where most people get stuck, slowing down is not the opposite of growth. It's the prerequisite. Throughout this conversation, Jamie demonstrates the principle of slowing down to move fast. Here's what she means. When you're sprinting, you miss things. You make reactive decisions. You say yes to opportunities that don't serve you because you don't have the time and space to evaluate them. Here's why that matters for your bottom line. Reactive businesses are commodities. Intentional businesses are premium. And the only way to shift from reactive to intentional is to slow down long enough to think strategically. Even just 15 minutes to recharge creates space for better decisions. That's not laziness, that's leverage. And if you're resistant to it, ask yourself why. Because most of the time, the resistance isn't about time, it's about control. And you can't control your way to clarity. So here's your action step. Audit your last week, but not the way you think. Not your revenue, not your hours, your alignment between what you're doing and what you want to be known for. Ask yourself, how many hours did I spend on work that reinforces my zone of genius? How many hours did I spend on work that dilutes my positioning? Did I make decisions reactively or intentionally? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, good. That's your signal. Because here's what Jamie proved. 1 hour of intentional, aligned work beats 4 hours of reactive, busy work every single time. Thanks for listening to Unfiltered Solopreneur. If today's episode gave you clarity or even just a little more confidence, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to the show, leave a review, and share it with another solopreneur who's been told they need to move faster when what they really need is to build deeper. That's how we grow this movement. One small share, one solo business at a time. Until next time, keep breaking free from the corporate grind. And remember, your story is your most powerful asset. Live solo or die corporate.